I was thinking that we should focus on some practical things.
Mhm.
So one is, okay, so we've got a potential situation of multi-city, right?
Mm.
So we've got a lot of people that are leaving certain parts of the city and going to other parts of the city, sort of going out. Southwest is what I personally think is best. I mean, symbolically, south and west is better than north and east, just symbolically. However, and as much as it pains me to say this because I have gotten through this time believing that we can foil it, you know. And I'm not saying that I don't believe it anymore, but the symbolism that they're pushing out is so insane. Like I can't even go online anymore. I can't scroll. I'm not even checking my inbox because it's literally like so insane that it's breaking my heart. And um, I was hoping to see the symbolism slowing down as an indicator that they weren't going to go ahead, and I'm not seeing that. So on the practical side, there's a lot of people that potentially might not have homes to go back to, and if we get cut off, you know, we just have to think worst case scenario and being prepared for worst case scenario.
Mm.
And what kind of things, and maybe if everyone like wants to comment what their ideas are, but like in terms of like you got to think roads, if there's destruction, are you even able to get back even if your house is still standing? If there's no internet, you don't have a navigator, so you need street directories, you know, I don't know, do they still sell those? Can you still buy street directories like you used to in the newsagents? Yeah. Okay, so maybe, yeah, street directories. Having the addresses of people that you know beforehand, having them written down. Just that kind of stuff, like thinking about what you should have in your car. I just think maybe these kinds of things are things we should be talking about, as well as, and this is another really important one, but we need to talk about our friends and family overseas. And because right now, like I used to live in Los Angeles, so I have friends over there, and they're quite loud on social media because I was doing activism even when I was living there. So I have some like friends like with big followings, and they're quite loud and they're, you know, very brave and courageous people. But I'm trying to tell them like, guys, this might go down on Friday, and we're going to need you to be our voice. And they're not really taking me seriously because they don't think, like a lot of people think as if that would happen in Australia. Like everyone thinks like, nah, that would happen anywhere but Australia, right? Which is exactly why it's going to happen in Australia. Well, if unless we can stop it. So people aren't really taking us seriously. And by the time they do take us seriously, we might not be able to communicate with them. Do you know what I mean? So by the time the whole world is looking at us, we might be cut off here at the throat. So, so we need to sort of prepare our overseas friends who are not really paying much attention or don't really take us seriously right now, and get them ready for the conversation, because everyone will be talking about Australia, everyone will be looking at Australia, and we got to make sure the conversation is not the mainstream narrative. Oh, it's the Muslims bombing Australia. Like we got to make sure that they're saying, look, guys, this is an inside job. This is like this. We're not going to let them start a civil war, you know, between us. Um, so like we need to prepare them with the tools, with the videos, with the information, with the accounts to look at, with the links, the downloads. Like they've got to have like videos that they can download that haven't expired, you know, like links that haven't expired. Like they've got to have like they've got to be ready with like, you know, this is what's going on, da 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 da, and like the whole story. Like the Aussies have been like following. I mean, I know that I have followers overseas, but most of my followers are Australians. And you guys who are following that are overseas, like, oh my gosh, like you have a massive role to play. Like we really need you guys to be our voice because you're across it, you've been following, you know what's going on, and there's really, relatively speaking, there's not that many of you. So you guys are going to be really important. And also, I really do believe that the west coast of Australia is safe. So I think that our friends on the west side of Australia, the same goes for you guys. Like, yeah, we're going to really need you guys. So, yeah, so that basically, I think those two things, like, in my opinion, um, are probably the most important things to talk about. I don't know what your thoughts are.
I, I definitely agree that there's we do need to be on high alert at all times, especially for any false flags, which are 100% going to be uh, blaming the Muslim community. So I did put up a video a couple of weeks ago speaking about this as well, and to make sure that we look out for each other, make sure that you protect our Muslim brothers and sisters. Um, it will be, it's pretty much in line with what's going on around the world with what's happening in Lebanon and Palestine and Syria, and you know, to spark up more fear mongering and terror, this supposed continual war on terror, which we know is a whole bunch of bullshit. So yeah, we do need to be very, very careful of this, and all the symbolism that you've put up, Annette, has been phenomenal. And you know, you've put your life on the line with this, your reputation on the line, and you're getting attacked for it. Yet there are a lot of people that also see your symbolism and are sharing it and are being diligent to be able to take precautionary measures to be safe. And it's always important to be safe in these instances. I think it's a very important topic we need to talk about.
Yeah, it's been amazing seeing like the people, like it's been a very surprising experience, like seeing who has eyes to see and ears to hear and who has got like the blinders on and they're just refusing to look. And I've been attacked by people I didn't expect to be. I've had people who I thought wouldn't be interested and wouldn't look. I've had them reach out and take it seriously. It's, yeah, you just never, I think we all went through that back in 2020. Like we were surprised by people, in good ways and bad ways. So yeah, you just never know. I guess that's why you shouldn't judge anyone. Hey, like, because you really just don't know who people really are until times like this, I guess. Someone pointed out, having your car full of petrol the night before. Yep. Was it you that bought something today, Doris? Someone.
I got like
What did
a
you get?
solar power bank, so you can use solar to charge like your devices. But like we are suspecting, if it happens, we don't think we'll have comms. So I don't know how useful that's going to be. But that's another really important thing. And I think a lot of people have been involved in like a stand in the park, and you guys have like delegated meetup points. I don't think it's a bad idea, like depending on, what happens and where it affects everyone. I don't think it's a bad idea if comms goes down or you're needing to connect with people to go to those locations, those meetup points. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I guess it's just like, yeah, during lockdown, it's like a time and a place and a day. I guess it's up to each, because back then we had stand in the park. So we had a Telegram group for each area. So thank you, Brady. That was brilliant. But we don't really have anything this time for something like that. So I don't know if we want to, do we want to use the stand in the park groups? Are they still there? Do we want to like reactivate them? Do we want to create new groups? What?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yusra is saying a stand in the park is still operating. Just got to
Okay,
connect with Brady.
with
Yeah.
Brady. Okay, but what about the groups? They're still there. They're just not, yeah, in the Telegram. Like people can still find the groups.
I believe so. Yusra, if you can confirm that, that'll.
Yeah, if they're easy to find. Like, can we go into Telegram and type, because
The,
they're still operating, you can find locations on the Facebook page. Okay,
I
but
would
what
say
about the groups? What about because we used to have I remember we had the Telegram groups, the Stand in the Park groups.
Yeah.
Anyway, maybe I'll post about that later, guys. I'll get confirmation. But yeah, that's probably the best idea, is to use the groups that are already there. And so they're called Stand in the Park. Anyway, I'll post about it later. But now the part about people leaving and possibly not being able to have, it's so hard to even say this, but possibly not even having a home to return to, and then possibly not even having cell coverage. Obviously, number one thing for them to do is to have a full tank of petrol. That would be the most important thing. Have a street directory, and I guess find someone you know that lives further out, if possible, and make sure you have their address. So I'll be making sure that my friends that travel out, because I do have a whole bunch of friends who were traveling out of the city area, and they're going to like Blue Mountains, Southern Highlands and all that. So I'll be making sure they've got street directories and they have my address. And if you don't have friends, someone says how far out, and I don't really I like to think that, again, south and west is best. And just going from the symbolism, I mean, in Sydney, I'm seeing symbolism, we're all seeing symbolism for like airport, CBD. I'm not seeing symbolism for like Parramatta or, those areas. I mean, yes, we definitely, there's areas like Greenacre that are being used because of the name, like it's got the word green in it. So we're seeing symbolism. We're definitely seeing symbolism, like Edmondson Park, for example, is another one. There's been a couple of the same sorts of things happen there. But when you look at the names of the places, you can see why they've done them at that location. I don't think it's because it's foreshadowing that something's going to happen there at that location or in the area. So like I have friends that are in like Bankstown area, and they're going to stay, they're going to stay in Bankstown. Pretty much all, like everyone my friends that are leaving, which is pretty much everyone I know, from say like Beverly Hills area, and then east of that, they're going, and they're going as far as like, the border of the metropolitan area or further. And so for example, I'm just over the border of the metropolitan area. And something interesting is that my local council put a call out last week for volunteers for disaster relief.
Wow.
So it's almost like they're getting the people in my area ready to be volunteers to help out afterwards. So the area I'm talking about is the Wollondilly Shire. So Wollondilly Shire is a massive area, huge, but it's over the border of the metropolitan area of Sydney. It's a massive, massive, like when we had lockdown and you were only allowed to like go out in your area, my area was massive, but it's mostly bush. In terms of going, our friends overseas, right? So what we're planning to do is have a like a list of like a breakdown, because it's going to happen all so quickly and everyone's going to be in shock if it goes ahead. I like to believe that we can still stop it, but if it goes ahead, it would happen very quickly, and people would be in shock. And we need to make sure that they have like a very summarized, condensed sort of document or whatever that says Australians have been aware for the past couple of months that this has been coming because of the symbolism, and this is where you can see the symbolism. Go to this page, check out this video. We talk about it in this video. This video sums up you know, it's a 13-minute video that sums up like what's the whole thing. Look at this person's Instagram account, they've been posting about it, that kind of thing, so that they can quickly just go, okay, boom, 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 like, okay, now we know what's going on. Because yeah, they're going to have to learn very quickly, because they're not going to look now. Like if you call your friends overseas, yeah, they're not taking it seriously, because they think that why Australia? Like the amount of people that say like, why Australia? Like why would they go for Australia? Like seems so irrelevant right now. Like, so yeah, so we're going to put something up on like Wednesday, and then something again on Thursday. So you're going to have to like I'll post the updates in my stories, but something on Wednesday and something on Thursday, because there will also be links that we can't have them expire, because eventually the links expire. So you want to send them out on Thursday, so that on Friday, yeah, see, the lockdown showed that they are targeting Australia. Yeah, that's right. There you go. Like, it's true. But still, people overseas, they didn't live through it, and, you know, they were worried about their own stuff. So they're not really aware of how bad the lockdowns were here. But yeah, so, so that on Friday, when they're like, oh my gosh, Australia, and they go to their email and they see like a thing that says, you know, urgent email from Sydney, Australia, they will click on it, because they're like, okay, what is this about? And then they will download those links because of what's going on. Like, you know, everyone's like looking at us. So just make sure that you send those links, that you send what we post, you send that on Thursday to your friends overseas, and even prime them like now, like just let them know, hey, I'm going to send you an email on Thursday, please look out for it, check your spam, just in case, you know, please, like just let them know I'm going to send you something. If they're people on Facebook, or your family you can call, or whoever.
There's a few people who have no clue what we're talking about. So have you been living under a rock? Just kidding. Look, if you don't have an idea, if this is the first time you're hearing about this, I suggest you go on Annette's account and look through her highlights from number 13, SS13, to the most recent, and then you'll get an idea of what we're talking about. But basically, to summarize, there's been a lot of symbolism dating back more than 100 years about a planned attack in Sydney. And Annette goes into detail as to what that represents on the macrocosm, which is the earth, and on the microcosm, which is with us, our bodies and stuff. So it's so complex and detailed to get into this live. That's not what we're doing this for. We're more focused on preparation and yeah, just like making sure everyone, you know, is prepared and what they need to do beforehand, because yeah, we do feel like if it happens, we're not going to have communication. They're going to use this as an excuse to declare, I don't know, World War III or something, because it's going to be blamed on a particular group or religion. So yeah, we just want to prevent as much chaos as we can after it happens, because there's going to be a lot of angry, brainwashed people, as you can imagine, if they pin it on a certain religious group. We don't want, we want to prevent that from happening. And if we can predict it and say, well, we knew this was going to happen because of the media, then people will be like, oh, well, if they knew, and if it was in mainstream media, then it's not Muslim terrorists. So that's what we're trying to do here. It's one of our goals, and that's if it happens. So the symbolism is pretty heavy, and it's been amping up the last few days. And if you're in the Code Crackers group, which we've been sharing a lot of symbolism for months now, you'll pick up on it. You'll see it. A lot of people have been messaging me like, I can't ignore it. It's everywhere. And
yeah, and guys, like, I know you guys are sending me lots of symbolism, but my inbox is full, overflowing. I would hate for the symbolism to just get lost in my inbox. I'm not checking. I'm checking like one every 20 messages at this point. Like I'm getting so many messages because you guys are seeing so much, and the symbolism is just getting lost in my inbox at this point. So if you can join the group, or if you're already in the group, please post what you're seeing there. I cannot keep up with it all. I also have to prepare my animals. I have a lot of animals that I take care of. I'm also trying to get all my family and relatives, because it's really hard to get, it's kind of like you have to like fan the fire behind people's, because people are just so la 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 la, um, and it's a lot of work. I'm also like, I've been all today I was doing mailbox dropping all around my area for my neighbors. That's the other thing. Like, you might want to start, talking to your neighbors, because you're probably going to get close to them. I hope, yeah, you probably will get close to them, and it's really hard to talk about, guys, because it's so obvious, like what they're planning to do on Friday, and yet 99% of the world are completely oblivious to what's happening, and yet it's so serious. It's so incredibly serious. If this goes ahead, it's going to be like the worst thing we've ever actually seen in our lives. And when you live in one of the areas that looks like it's a targeted area, it's a whole nother thing, because you're also in it. So you're trying to, like, you live there. It's your home. It's full of you. Like, I've lived here my whole life. This is my whole life. Like, I know so many people that live here, and it's like I'm trying to, like, I feel like I'm trying to save the world from a civil war, save a whole side of the country, and myself, and all my animals, and my family. It's like, it's so full on, and I can't keep up with the inbox. Like, and it's also breaking my heart, because I can't even log online. Like, I can't scroll. I can't go on even Facebook or Instagram, because the algorithm is pushing all the symbolism to the very top of my feed. And 100%, then I'm telling you, 100% of the posts that are being pushed to the top of my feed, because I only follow Doris from this account. So I don't follow anyone else. So the algorithm is just feeding me pure symbolism. And every single post that's at the top of my feed right now is symbolism for Friday. And I think a lot of it's got to do with the fact that I live in a targeted area. And so, of course, anyone that lives in a targeted area is going to receive more symbolism than people that live overseas or on the other side of the country, because that's part of the rules. They have to tell us what they're going to do. And I have to say that I have been getting more messages from people. People have been sending me messages about symbolism they're seeing in Brisbane, Gold Coast, Newcastle, and Melbourne. And at this point, I can't, like, I wasn't sure, like, is all this symbolism happening there because it's all pointing to Sydney? Because it's like what they do in Sydney, where they do like symbolism in certain areas, like Greenacre, and because they've got the names. But just because they're using a location to do symbolism, it doesn't mean it's going to happen there. For example, right now they're pushing heaps of posts about New York at the top of my feed. So I'm getting New York, New York, New York. Now, I know why that is. It's because New York is like the US equivalent of Sydney. So that's why 9/11 was there, and 8/11 will be here, right? Because the US government represents the solar plexus. That's why they're so powerful. As a government, not as a country or a land, but as a government, they represent the solar plexus. So Australia represents the solar plexus as a land. That's why the land is powerful, right? And Uluru in particular, specifically, is the solar plexus. And you just need to talk to the First Nations people about how powerful the land is, right? So New York, by doing that whole zombie flash thing in New York, the big crowd doing the zombie thing, I mean, honestly, that was one of the hardest things. They just kept pushing that into my feed, and I couldn't even. I was crying. Like, it was just because I know what that's about. It's telling us about Friday, right, in Sydney, and so New York symbolism doesn't mean it's going to happen in New York, or they already did the New York thing. That they did that in 2001. This time it's Sydney. So when it comes to Melbourne, Newcastle, Brisbane, and Gold Coast symbolism, I've been hoping that that was just, oh, okay, yeah, it's just because it's on the East Coast and it's all pointing towards Sydney. But I don't know anymore. Like, I'm seeing there's so much symbolism in Melbourne, Brisbane, Gold Coast, and Newcastle. Like, those are the four areas that I keep seeing stuff, and people keep sending me stuff. And yeah, I have to say that, because like, if you're in any of those cities, this is something to think about. And just remember, west, south, symbolically speaking, west, south is in the body, it's down, and east, north in the body is up. And this is all symbolism about the microcosm. Like, at the end of the day, that's what all of this is about. 9/11, 8/11, it's all symbolism for the, essentially it's the microcosm, because the microcosm is you, and it's what's in your control. You can't control what's up there and what's in the sky and the celestial bodies out there, but you can control you, right? So it's all about that. And so, yeah, so up is north and east, and down is south and west. And the reason why it's both north and east is because the sun rises in the east, and the sun is born in your solar plexus. So that's what Australia is. Like, that's what Uluru is. It's the solar plexus. That's why it's happening on the East Coast. So yeah, just think of it. Yeah. So it's really important to understand this, because if you don't know where to be on the day, think about that. And I know that Melbourne, I'm particularly seeing a lot of stuff in North Melbourne, like North Melbourne, North Melbourne, North Melbourne, North Melbourne. So yeah, I rang a friend that was in North Melbourne last week. I was like, I don't think that I wouldn't want to be there on Friday personally. So yeah, just think about that. Southwest is, head is heaven, heel is hell. They don't want us to ascend to heaven. They want us to, they want to bring us down to hell. So yeah, so obviously, like, they're going to go after, because they're the ones in charge of, like, our society. They're going to go, and I'm not saying it's like that every single time, because that was not the case in Palestine. In Palestine, they went to the west, the far west tip, which is Gaza, and in particular Rafah. Is it Rafah, which is the actual, like, very, very southern point, which is actually also the very western point. But the reason why they did that in Palestine was because Palestine doesn't represent a chakra like Australia does, or, like, you got Uluru, which is a chakra, or Glastonbury, which is a chakra, right? Palestine actually represents the body. And they did they did like an inversion thing. So instead of the Israelites, well, the IDF represent the Israelites, and instead of them plundering the, Jericho, right? Like the story when they entered the promised land, they plundered Jericho, which is the heart. So it's symbolic of cutting off the portal that goes to the unconscious realm. So instead of plundering Jericho, they went into the west, they went down, they went into the heel. So Palestine I would say that's an exception, but symbolically what I see everywhere else is they go after the east and the north, and the west and the south are usually protected. That's what I usually see. And the symbolism is screaming that too. I mean, the symbolism is screaming East Coast, East Coast. I mean, a lot of you that are watching have seen that, because I'm getting a lot of messages with East Coast symbolism. So yeah, I just want you guys to understand where my opinions are coming from. Like when I say this is where I would rather be, that's because, yeah, it's because of that. So I am in the far southwest, which I feel very fortunate about, of Sydney. Yeah.
The other thing is I wouldn't want to be flying on the 8th, or if you're flying like the night of the 7th to the 8th, because there is some symbolism with plane and Sydney Airport. So just out of precaution, like don't book any flights that day.
There's so much plane symbolism. There's an incredible amount of plane symbolism. It's insane. Like I haven't even posted a fraction of what I've seen. Planes, yeah, I would not want to be near the airport or a plane on the day, particularly the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of symbolism pointing towards sunrise, like a lot.
Yeah.
In relation to planes. Yeah.
And tunnels. Don't be in a tunnel.
Tunnels.
Yeah, tunnels is another big one.
All
those people falling flaps, the stage traps, that's tunnel symbolism.
Yeah. Well, the tunnel symbolism. So you had that singer. If someone wants to tell me her name, I don't know what her name is. Rodriguez something. She came to Australia last week, was it, or 2 weeks ago? She did like this tour called the Guts tour. So the solar plexus is the gut, right?
Wow. I didn't know it called that. Wow.
Yeah, it's the gut. That's why they call it gut instinct, right?
Wow.
Because that's where God speaks to you. So like, so she fell through a hole in the stage in Melbourne. That was 2 weeks ago, and then Chris Martin fell through the hole in the stage yesterday, and in Melbourne.
Come on, is that a coincidence? Is that like a coincidence?
But when you go, so in Palestine, right? Do you remember all the stories about the tunnels? The Hamas are in the tunnels, the hospital basements, the tunnels, the hospital basements, the tunnels. Okay, so the reason why there was all that is because now the hospitals represent the heart. So the hospital is a place where you get help. So it's the same thing as the Sydney Opera House. Now remember, the Sydney Opera House has that big underground car park. Now the underground car park underneath the Opera House runs next to, well, the tunnels, the Sydney Harbour tunnels run alongside that car park. And so, yeah, so you've got the tunnels and you've got the basement. The reason why we're seeing this underground stuff, like holes, falling through holes, tunnels, basements, things that are underground, like there's so much symbolism. There was a woman that fell down 8 meters down a drain, and you know, they had this, there's some really staged stuff in the media, like one guy like rescuing ducks out of a drain, and it looks like the most staged thing ever. And I mean, ducks are always getting rescued out of drains, baby ducks. Like in my local community page, there's always baby ducks falling down drains, and it never makes the news, but suddenly it's like making the news. Like anything that's got to do with like drains, tunnels, basements, whatever, it's just like the news, it's just like a big thing. Now the reason why that is because the symbolism behind this ritual goes deeper than the 9/11 ritual. 9/11 was about Venus, Mars, and Jupiter. This ritual goes deeper. This one is about Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Uranus, and the black sun. So the black sun is under the earth. So that's why the number, you know how you got 911 for emergency in the US? Well, you also have 811, and I think that's in the US as well. If someone wants to clarify, you've got 811, and that's the number you call before you dig, right? To find out if there's like something underneath that you could damage. So 811 is the call before you dig number, because you, the black sun is hiding behind the number 8. Someone says correct. Yeah, it's hiding behind the number 8, and so it's underneath. So, for example, in Circular Quay in Sydney, we had a venue called The Basement, and it was dial before you dig. I still call it The Basement because for years and years and years, it was like a live music venue. And then they changed the name, get this, they changed it to Mary's Underground. Because Mary is essentially Uranus, right? And so it's the green, it's the rays, it's the green rays that we see. That's why the color green is like so popular right now, because the northern lights, you know, you got the green rays. So that's Uranus energy coming through. And so Uranus is uranium, and when you shine a UV light on uranium, it comes up that color. And so, and that's because, anyway, I could go so deep into it, but basically Uranus it comes through the black sun, but so does, because the black sun is like it's like a room with multiple portals. So one of the portals is Uranus, and that's why you got to close the other portal. So only Uranus comes in, and that's represented by Venus. And that represents Venus is like the heart that is divine, that is purified, because it's got the portal closed to the unconscious realm. So essentially, the crown represents the black sun, and that's why James Packer built the crown, and he dated Mariah Carey, and Mariah, she also represents the black sun.
And she lost two relatives on the same day for different incidences, like how
her mother and sister, and that's Uranus and Venus. So that's the Opera House and the Harbour Bridge.
Yeah. Like, who loses two relatives in the same day for different like incidences or causes? Like, that's so coincidental as well, right?
Yeah, that's what everyone was saying when it happened. Like, everyone was like, "Oh, something's not right there." You know, that's, now you know what that's about. That's about the Opera House and the Harbour Bridge. And so the crown actually represents the black sun, and because the black sun is underneath, but it's rising, okay, because it's the phoenix, so it's rising. Yeah, someone says Mariah Mary, exactly. Mariah Mary, same thing. So because it's rising, so the phoenix is rising, and the script is about to flip. It's funny because I watched 8 Mile the other day, and like it was literally 8 Mile was released on November 8th, and I think it runs for 111 minutes. And Eminem, like, it opens up with the green light, and he's essentially playing the black sun, and his best friend plays Uranus, and that's why his best friend at the end is wearing the green jumper, and he actually says to Eminem before he comes out on stage, and he says, "You better flip this script tonight." And I was just like, oh my God, because that's exactly, I've been using the word flip because that's exactly what happens when the phoenix rises. It's got more, it represents cycles, so there's a cycle component, but towards the end of the cycle, the script gets flipped. So the heart rises. So the people who have been living, virtuous, or I don't know what the right word is, like, maybe virtuous is not the right word, but like the people who have been living lives that are not, about self-service and greed and stuff like that, people who have been more, superficial, and people who've been living like actual, like heart-centered, I guess maybe selfless or whatever lives, I guess, those people have not been like the things that are glorified in this world are beauty and success, accomplishments, power, money, nice cars, nice holidays, I don't know, whatever, like just material things, fame. And so, like, the people who sort of went down that path are now not going to be, like, because the heart is rising, the phoenix is rising, the people with the pure hearts are actually going to rise up now. Just like Eminem, at the end, he kind of comes out as being like the best rapper kind of thing. Like, and yeah, that's actually, and that's out of their control.
Yeah.
That's why in Leave the World Behind, you know, there's a line where he says, you know, the elites, he doesn't use the word elites, but he's like the cabal or whatever, they're not in control of everything. They just have a heads up on what's going to happen.
That includes
that's all it is.
Pole shift, which people think,
Yeah.
people are getting mixed up with HARP controlling a lot of these major weather events, but it's actually pole shift.
Well, yeah. I feel like HARP is like there's it's being blended. So like maybe there's things that are being caused by HARP, but then there's things that like people think they're like, no, isn't the aurora, you know, lights, isn't that HARP? And it's like, no, but they do want you to think that they have control of everything. They do want, and they don't have control of everything. And they definitely don't have control of what's happening right now.
Yeah.
They can, I mean, yes, they get, you know, they're going to, the reason why they can get away with what they're doing on Friday is because they've literally been warning everyone in a language that only certain people can understand. And to understand the language they've been speaking to us in, you need to have like a somewhat of a pure heart. And that's why there is a common denominator I've noticed with people that are blinded to like the symbolism, like they won't even look at it, or they refuse to, like, we're still getting,
they get triggered,
or they get triggered or whatever. There's definitely something that they all have in common with each other, and that is that they are very egocentric people. It's something I've noticed. They're people that really operate from their egos, and the people that are actually receptive are people that are more heart-centered, because the heart really is the key to wisdom and understanding. I mean, I just spent the whole, like, pretty much weekend in the city handing out flyers, and wow, you know, and I used to live in the city. I used to live in Balmain, right? In fact, I put one of the flyers in my old mailbox. It was so weird, but I remembered when I was there why I didn't like living there. It was like the weekend reminded me, oh my gosh, that's right. There is a certain consciousness there that, because I guess people are more focused on, like, obviously it's not everyone, but just generally speaking, there is a lot more focus on wealth. You know, even like it's the weekend and you can hear people talking about money, you know, like it's like that they're always talking about money, things, wealth. Like it's very, you know, I mean, you have to kind of have a good income to live there. So you're like, the focus is on money and wealth and all that stuff. And there's a certain consciousness level, and it's actually like worse than like the western suburbs or the southwestern suburbs, where people are definitely way more receptive. And when I was there, I was abused verbally. I was like, it was so discouraging, like almost like I did not have many good experiences at all in the city. And then I remembered, that's right, this is why I didn't like living here. I remember what the people are like now. So that the heart is just like a rock. It's that I feel like there's so many people there with hearts that are as hard as rocks. They're not, you can give them all the warning in the world and they'll stay there, and they will ridicule us and you know, and some people say, well, you planted seeds, but it's like there's no seed planting at this point. Like that was their final warning. There is no second chance. Like if they don't get out of there, when, I mean, I believe the crown will probably get hit first, but I'm not sure. But if they don't move when the first thing happens, because the amount of symbolism that is that is screaming, like, I mean, really screaming about the water, you know. It's going to be the water that actually does the most damage, because of like, obviously they're going to, you know, do something under the water, some sort of explosion or something, and it's going to cause a ripple effect in the water. And the whole watch the water, like, it's insane the amount of water symbolism that we've seen. And like, I don't think that, yeah, I mean, I don't know how high the waves will rise. You know, when I was trying to explain this to an old man, like an elderly man, I was trying so hard to convince him to leave. He was such a nice man. Like, it just breaks my heart, because I was like, I really don't think you're safe here on Friday. I think you need to go. And he was like, no, 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 you know, he was so nice, and he was like, go down the street and warn the people down there, because if there's a tidal wave, they're the ones that are going to get, like, you know, we're higher up here. I think we're going to be okay. And I'm like, I want to believe that you're going to be okay, but I don't know how high these waves are going to be. Like, I don't know. I just know that the waves are going to be big enough to cause a lot of death and destruction, because the symbolism is screaming, just screaming it. So, yeah.
I want to ask a favor for everyone. I mean, Annette's been like really sacrificing a lot of her time and energy, and I've been, you know, putting in a lot to get the word out there. But if you guys could send as much as you can to people who have a large voice, and you might potentially think that they might actually take the bait and blame Muslims and perpetuate that narrative, please send this information to them and record it. Because if this happens and these same people are perpetuating the narrative and contributing to the chaos, we want to expose as many people as we can. And we want to know who is in their heart and who isn't, who's in their ego, who's part of the club. So if you guys could do that, like, I know there's a lot of people out there in our community or in other communities who put a lot of like anti-Muslim stuff, or like they have an issue with you know, they don't like Palestine or whatever. Can you just like send this to them and say, it's not going to be the Muslims, and you've been warned, and if you continue the narrative, you're only exposing yourself, because it's all out there in front of you to look at the symbolism, look at the evidence, and you're still going to continue with your ego, with your brainwashing and your programming. Because yeah, like I said, like, this is really going to show us who the ones are who are genuine and who genuinely care, or the ones who are just like, you know, just profiting off people and just, or they're sellouts, I don't know. So yeah, if you guys can do that as well on your end and record it, that'd be really good, because once this happens, we will really have a clear indication of who is for the people and who is there for just their own selfish gains, to sell t-shirts or sell this and sell that, and just profit off like people's vulnerabilities and profit off fear or whatever. So yeah, that's like, if I can ask something from you guys, can you please do that for us? Because that
Yeah.
is going to help a lot.
Yeah, and I just want to say there's one particular person who is quite well known and has quite a big following, who I have been communicating with over the phone and through text. And this person, um, I they are already sort of like, seem to be grooming their followers to sort of like be against Muslims. And I have been trying to explain to this person, I'm not going to say names, but I've been trying to explain to this person, look, watch this video, this is what's going to happen. It looks like this is what's planned. I've made it very clear that we've been able to prove that it's at least a 100-year plan. And I just want to make sure that this person does not blame Islamic terrorists, and they're not being receptive to what I'm saying. It's like they're just being really dismissive, and I'm not sure if they're being dismissive because they like I'm kind of like changing the program, and it's not supposed to go that way, because they're supposed to, like, they've got a job where they're supposed to, like, you know, push this narrative of Islamic terrorists. But just to be safe, make sure anyone you know that has a big following, that you can see that they're on that path of like grooming their followers to turn on the Muslims when if this goes ahead, and literally flood them, like send messages, comment, flood them, and make sure that they can see the videos. There's a 13-minute video on Doris's YouTube channel. It's called November 8, 2024. Okay, so click on her bio link, go to her YouTube channel. It's a 13-minute video that pretty much just sums it all up. And at, you know, towards the end, it's just like boom, 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 like back to back to back to back evidence, circumstantial evidence that November 8 is going to be an inside job. So please, like, don't just rely on other people to do stuff and just think that just because we're communicating with people that's enough. It's not. It's really not enough. Like, I've had a lot of people who have sort of high-profile truthers. They've had my phone number. They know that I'm keen to talk to them. They've refused to call me. I've been really surprised to see some of them turn around and try to destroy my reputation. I mean, I was really, really shocked, guys. I really thought that truth seekers, what I've realized about truth seekers is that most truth seekers are not truth seekers at all. They're actually just validation seekers. They're just seeking validation for what they already believe. That's it. They're not actually seeking the truth. And so, you know, it's really important that they are kept in check, and that they, like, you guys are on their backs. You have to be on their backs. If they're not doing the right thing, and if you see them, you know, lashing out at Muslims, or you know that they're going against what they should know by now is, you know, the right thing. If you see them doing that, call them out, post the links, you know, all that kind of stuff. So make
Can I
them
just add to
accountable.
that?
Yeah.
I'd like to add to that. One thing that I've noticed, especially in the last 4 years, we all rose, a lot of us rose together to speak up against a lot of the disgusting mandates that helped us find each other. We've always had something about us that has had a calling to dig deeper for truth. There's an inner knowing. And once we all found each other, we created this community together. However, there have been people that have actually taken for granted the vulnerabilities of many people that have been too scared to speak out, but they love that they found this community because they know that they're not crazy and they feel safe here. And unfortunately, there have been quite a few figureheads that have taken advantage of people's vulnerabilities by grifting, and they go from one grift to another grift to another grift to another grift. There's a couple of big female figureheads in particular that have done this. I don't need to mention names. I think you guys would easily guess who they are. But it's very unfortunate that this has happened, and it's created massive division at a time where, especially right now, the truth is so in our faces about so many things going on in the world. Yusra, you're funny. Exactly, it's one of them. You know, there's what shocked me the most, absolutely floored me, is when I went to the protests for the liberation of Palestine. I was shocked to hardly see any faces there from anybody in the freedom community. And then I thought, what the fuck? Where is everybody that fought for freedom? And I realized something. I thought, the last 4 years, we fought for freedom, but the majority of the people that fought against jabs, they fought against the mandates, against the masks, against all that bullshit lies, they fought really for themselves. And then you have a look at what's going on in Palestine with everything that's going on over there, this whole Zionist agenda. That is humanity. You liberate, but this is not just about Palestine. You liberate Palestine means you dismantle the Zionist regime, and that is humanity. The indigenous people of that land represent the indigenous people of every land around the world. And I was so shocked. I looked around and I thought, where the hell is everybody? Why on earth aren't the truthers here? Oh, I know why. Because they don't want to be standing next to the people that have purple hair. So fucking what? Those people also feel like they're the underdogs and the outcasts, and they need to feel like they're part of a community as well. And they have always stood by and for, and they've stood up for the First Nations of this country. And there is a massive group of people fighting for the liberation of the indigenous people of this country, and they have been doing so for decades. And they're the very same people that are standing up for the liberation of Palestine. And now it's also for the liberation of Lebanon, Syria, Yemen. And we know why, because there is a bigger agenda of the greater Israel. And this all plugs in to everything that you beautiful queens are also talking about. It's all connected. So I just, it really shocks me when I see people that have sold themselves out, they're so-called truthers, and they're not speaking up about Palestine. And I say, if you do not speak up about the truth of Palestine, you're not a real truther. You're not. You can't be. You can't possibly be, because that is about humanity. It's right in front of our face. You cannot take a side on genocide. There's a genocide, and then there's all the other bullshit. You can't be like, oh, but Hamas, or as they say, Hamas. It's Hamas with a he. First of all, let's get that right. And it's hummus, not hummus. So let's get that right as well, which is Lebanese, by the way. Anyway, so you can't be about humanity and truth if you are not standing up for Palestine and anybody in that region, or any other indigenous peoples of the world that are experiencing genocide. There are several conflicts around the world going on, genocides or conflicts around the world that people don't even know. Sudan is another place, Pakistan, Afghanistan. Like, there are so many countries that are just not getting the exposure that they need, and it's devastating. And we need to be talking about this, and it all ties in with what's going on, because a lot of them are Muslim-dominated countries, and it's so easy to keep the military-industrial complex going when you blame the Muslims, because in those countries, why do they look like they're third world countries? Because they have purposely been attacked and kept poor so that they could be blamed for terrorism. And in the meanwhile, the Western world grabs their resources, grabs their land, grabs their children, grabs their organs. You know, it's just horrible. So what could possibly take place this Friday is all tied in with all of that.
Absolutely.
So if you see truthers that are not speaking up, and they're talking about other bullshit that doesn't matter, and they're grifting, and they say, oh, I'm doing this for you, just donate money to me, you know, because I'm doing this for you, then that's not a real cause to be putting your money toward.
Yeah, let me just say something. So what I've noticed is that the reason why, because I just recently had an accusation against me that I had to justify, and it was like, oh, that's right, there's people that do this, you know, just a reminder. So in the truther community, like when you know, I started speaking out about Palestine, I started getting a lot of people sort of coming at me and going and like sort of accusing me of being brainwashed by the left, right? Now, here's the problem. As soon as you subscribe to an ideology, and I don't care which one it is, I don't care, right? I'm not here to debate. As soon as you subscribe to an ideology, whether it's a religious ideology or a, you know, when I say religious, I mean exoteric, right? Because esoterically, the religions are all the same. They're all the same, but exoterically they're like in conflict with each other. So exoterically, or a political a political ideology or whatever it is, or you subscribe to, oh, I'm one of those people, I'm one of these people. Okay. Now what you've done is you've set yourself up to be on the right side of history sometimes and the wrong side of history at other times. So 2020, 2021, we saw the left, unfortunately, on the wrong side of history, right? They were being deceived through their hearts because they're bleeding heart lefties. And so it's about, it was about the greater good. You got to do it for the greater good, the greater good, the greater good. Okay. So they were deceived through their hearts. They were emotionally manipulated to end up on the wrong side of history on that one. However, now it's more like it's the people on the right that are actually being manipulated to land on the wrong side of history. And so when, for some, there's a lot of truthers, and I mean, when I say truthers, I mean the real ones, not the validation seekers, but the actual truth seekers, that they've managed to land on the right side of history both times. And those people, and those people have been copping a lot of shit.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really disappointing. And I think Yusra said it once. She said she realized that at the end of the day, we never really had anything in common with those people that we were fighting alongside. We thought that they were our colleagues, our allies. We were fighting alongside for the same cause, and we thought we had something in common. And what we realized about a year ago was that we actually don't have anything in common at all. And it was a very eye-opening experience.
Yeah.
And that will continue because I'm still on my blocking spree on Facebook. I'm still blocking people because you can see where they're going. Like that they're going to be those people on Friday and on the weekend and onwards that are going to get on that Muslim hating bandwagon because they're going to be blaming the wrong people for Friday. So yeah.
In case you didn't get the memo, the same people behind 9/11, the same people behind the lockdowns and the forced vaccinations, the same people behind the genocide in Palestine, and the same people that are going to fuck up Sydney and whatever else they're going to do are behind everything. So that's the memo. So there's no attacking a religion, attacking a people, whatever. And that's what people need to realize. And that's why I was really shocked, because I was like, what? You're supporting the people that forced you into lockdown and get an experimental gene therapy? Like, they're the same people. But I don't know how people don't register that. Like, maybe they're not as deep down the rabbit hole as we are. But it's the same people, guys. Yeah. Okay.
It's the same people that are stopping Candace Owens from coming to the country. Yeah. And just so that Eddie Lieben knows, not all Jews are Zionists. There are plenty, let me tell you, there are plenty of anti-Zionist Israeli Jews at the pro-Palestine rallies, and they are the most inspirational, powerful speakers you'll ever hear in your life. They are so against what's going on, and they are on the right side of humanity, and I just love them. It's interesting times, and I think we just need to be very vigilant, very high on alert. I mean, if they can cause these floods in Florida, North Carolina, Spain just a few days ago, there's horrific floods. These are not natural floods. If they can do that kind of shit under the guise of climate change, and they keep pushing that as a marketing ploy through the news, which they have been doing for years, they're trying to normalize that. One of the reasons why I dropped out of doing my master's in psychotherapy was because they tried to convince us to counsel people for climate change depression. Climate change depression is a thing, is a name, right? So they're getting people used to this whole thing, they're normalizing it. It's not, There is no fucking climate change. There's change of seasons, and there's geoengineering, and there's terrorism against civilians by our own government. So what's potentially going to take place this Friday is a planned event. It's a very planned event.
Yeah, so speaking of water, I have not really gone into it, but so water represents, so water, this is the baptism of water. That's what happens in your heart. That's why Jesus is baptized by John the Baptist, and it's in water. He baptizes him in water because water is the feminine and fire is the masculine. So water, baptism of water and baptism of fire. So there's a lot of symbolism of water and fire. And so we had the fires in 2019 and 20, that summer. And the water, there's a lot of water symbolism, but also fire around November 8th. So my sort of guess is that we're going to see fire and water, and obviously the water would come second. So my guess is that there'll be crashes, explosions, buildings set on fire and stuff like that, and then the water will come later. And so what's important is that and I don't know how to do this, but because see, I spent the weekend there trying to warn people, and like virtually no one took me seriously, okay? But obviously, as soon as they see the fire and they see the crashes and they see the explosions that are above the ground, they're probably not going to realize what's coming next. And what they really need to do is just go, because what's coming next is water. And so, like, I don't know, like, how to, I mean, communicate. You can't communicate with them. How are you going to tell them that, you know? Because now they're going to listen. Once they start seeing, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, that girl was right. Oh my gosh, something's. And then, but what they really need to do is start to just go, because they probably don't realize the danger they're in because of the water and because of what they're planning to do under the water and the ripple effects that it's going to have in the water. And so just so you know, like fire, water, yeah, that's heart and Jupiter. And ultimately, this is the nuclear. So this is where Uranus enters. So that's uranium, and then it rises if it can get past the throat, which is where they're trying to block us through fear. So they try to block us by like making us feeling scared about speaking out. I mean, I was watching a documentary the other day. It was literally a documentary about, even though there's some amazing deep truths hiding in this documentary, it's also full of like BS as well. And it's a film called Christspiracy. And yeah, there's definitely like, it's a documentary about Jesus being a vegan basically. And so I like watching that documentary, the guy, the filmmaker, he's going, oh yeah, when we were making this documentary, we had drones outside our window, like, you know, and I'm like, oh, give me a break. Like, where are my drones? Where's Doris's drones? Like, they've been putting so much fear into us for so long about what's going to happen if you speak out, if you like, the amount of people that message me and say, oh, you know, buy these crystals to protect yourself, or, you know, make sure like you don't drink anything that's not from a bottle, or like, I have so many people messaging me, and I really appreciate that you guys are like concerned about my safety, but honestly, you don't understand the game. You don't understand. I am so safe. I'm not worried at all. That they have created such an illusion around speaking out and what's going to happen to you if you speak out, right? It's not true. Like, this is all to cut us off here, because if you block the uranium from rising to heat, the nuclear explosion is not going to happen, and that is the activation of your dormant DNA. And this is what they're scared of, because they can't do this. They're not able to do this. We can do it because we have the ability to do it. That's why they demonized, you know, like they turned the spine, the chakra alignment into a witch's broom and a wizard's staff and, you know, the fairy's wand. Well, I guess we don't think negatively about the fairy's wand, but, you know, generally speaking, they have really demonized magic, right? Because they are the ones that are scared of magic, because we're the ones that can bring the magic. Because you cannot build pyramids. You can't build pyramids if you're evil. You can't, because you can't have that chakra alignment. Because in order to do that, you have to purify your heart. You literally, they're not heart-centered people. They're the opposite of that. And they're trying to keep us down. They have spent, I don't know how long the cycle is that we're in, because we've been lied to so much about history. But this whole cycle, however long it's been, they have spent keeping us in our lower chakras, keeping us, you know, making sure that we leave that portal wide open to the unconscious realm, that we fill our hearts with worldly material desires, fleshly desires, carnal desires, so that we are on their level. The only difference is that we are not one of them. They have their own shit going on. They have their protection. They have continents that are not on our maps. They have extremely advanced technology. This is like Flintstone land to them. And they don't care. Like, they don't care about blowing up the Opera House and the Harbour Bridge. They're not going to miss the Harbour Bridge like we're going to miss the Harbour Bridge. I love the Harbour Bridge. I love the Opera House. I always have my whole life. I've never taken those buildings for granted. I always thought they were so beautiful. Do you think they care? They don't give a shit, because they've got their own places that they piss off to. You know, the amount of people that we think are dead that are not dead, or missing that are not missing, like they're over there. They can't do what we are capable of doing, and they know that. So what they're scared is the people that slip through the cracks, that didn't fall into their program, that didn't buy into their culture, which is a culture of carnal instinct, you know, low vibration, substance, you know, substance abuse, you know, fleshly desires, selfishness, self-service. It's all, that's what Satanism is. It's just a culture of service to self. And if anyone that didn't fall through those, anyone that fell through those cracks and didn't fall into that program, they are a threat. And the best thing they can do, if they can't keep that portal open, and they can't keep us from purifying our hearts, the next best thing is to cut us off at the throat. And somebody posted in the group, they said, oh, the butterfly, because I couldn't understand the butterfly. Like, I know that the Katy Perry's butterfly definitely looks like an X, right? Because of the way it's designed. And so that would definitely be planet X. But the thing is, which is basically like the black sun, but like, which I'm pretty sure it's a black sun. It could be a planet hiding behind it, like Pluto. I haven't gone that deep, but it's, at the very least, it's the black sun. And so, but the general butterfly, I knew that there was, I know people say, oh, it's, you know, the Pizzagate thing or the monarch programming, but these things, if it's mainstream, you know, it's not it's a superficial, more shallow interpretation of the symbolism. The deeper level, I knew there was a deeper level, and I've been trying to figure it out for ages. What exactly is the butterfly? And I can't believe it took me so long to figure it out. Someone posted in the group that the thyroid looks like a butterfly. And then I was like, oh my gosh. So the first thing I did was I went to NASA's website, because you're going to find so many answers on NASA's website, because NASA is essentially giving us so, I reckon that's why the little girl in Leave the World Behind was actually wearing a NASA t-shirt. The whole film, apart from like the beginning, she's wearing a NASA t-shirt, because NASA reveals so much. Yes, they lie. Yes, there's the forked tongue running through the logo, but that's because they encode everything. It's a lie, but you're supposed to read between the lines. It's encoding that. It's like mythology. And so they give away so much by saying, oh, look, we found a rock in the shape of a duck on Mars, or we found, oh, look, there's all these little kittens in one of the rings of Saturn. These things that look like kittens. Like, there's just so much symbolism hiding, and the dates as well. You got to look at the dates. Oh, this photo of Jupiter was taken on this date, da, 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 and you got to look at the dates. Anyway, so she's like, oh, the thyroid looks like a butterfly. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I know this is Mars. So I went and had a look and to see if they ever found anything on Mars that looks like butterflies. Lo and behold, they found a big crater, and they called this butterfly crater. And guess when that article was published?
8th of November.
8th of November. I couldn't believe it. And I was like, there you go. Like that, see, that is, if you can break through this, it's just like Neo in the Matrix.
Yeah.
You know, Trinity, she gets him to rise up into past the solar plexus chakra, past the heart. Then she says to him, get up. That's what she says, get up, because now he's in the heart, but he's got to go to the next level. So he literally gets up and he says no. So that's symbolism for now he's activated this. And now there's nothing stopping the energy from reaching here and activating the dormant DNA. The only thing that stops it is the timing, because this is all, there's an actual like timing to this. That's why we haven't seen it before. Like in our whole lives that we've been alive, we've never seen anyone activate their dormant DNA. We haven't. Have you ever seen someone build a pyramid in the desert? No, I haven't either. That's because the pyramids were built at the end of a cycle. So it happens at the end of the cycle. We are in the end of the cycle. I don't know, like there are theories that the cycle ends in 2040, and it does seem pretty plausible. Like if you look at Jason Brashear's work, it does look pretty plausible that it's 2040. When you do the maths and you count and you're like, okay, yeah, the first seal definitely broke in 2020, second seal's definitely obviously breaking now, 2024. And then you look at, Revelation, and you do the maths, and it all sort of like adds up that it's 2040. It just does. So I'm not sure. It does seem to be 2040. But as for when this can activate at the end of the cycle, I'm not sure. Like, I wish I knew. I really, really wish I knew. But obviously the symbolism for that is this Friday. So the symbolism, that's why there's so much nuclear. There's so much nuclear, like that little boy Kenneth that scaled the bridge when they opened the Sydney Harbour Bridge. He was 8 years old, and then they did a story on him, like what he ended up doing later in life. They did a story on him. You can find it. And he ended up cleaning up in Hiroshima, like going to Hiroshima to help clean up after the nuclear explosion. And there's just a lot of nuclear symbolism. And I don't talk about it a lot because it's like so scary to think that, it's very scary to think that they're going to set off a nuclear bomb in our beautiful home city. At the same time, that I do think we're lied to about the nuclear bombs, and which makes sense to me because if they are lying to us about nuclear bombs, like, so I've heard some people say, and I'm just telling you what other people have told me. I'm not saying I believe it because I haven't gone down the rabbit hole myself. But someone said to me, they'll probably set off like a TNT bomb and say that it was nuclear. And the reason why I'm saying it makes sense that we could be being lied to about nuclear to some degree. I don't know where the truth stops and the lies end and the lies end and the truth stops. I don't know. But I do think that we are being lied to about nuclear to some degree. And the reason why I think that is because I see the symbolism. Australia is the richest country in uranium. And of course it is. It's the solar plexus of the earth. And so that's Uranus, uranium, Uranus. It's like a birth canal for the sun. It's like, it's a birthing canal. It's Uranus, it's Bethlehem. Australia is Bethlehem. And so you've got Uranus, even though it comes out of the black sun, it's where the sun is born. It's like the child of Uranus is the sun. And so it makes sense. And so that's what, it's solar plexus, sun, solar, sunny country, blah, blah, blah. And so it makes sense to me that they would, yeah, it makes so much sense to me that they would save like the big nuclear explosion to set off the second seal, the civil unrest and all that. They would set it off in Australia. It actually symbolically makes perfect sense. So it wouldn't surprise me if they did, you know, want the world to believe that a nuclear bomb was set off here. And I really, really hope that people that say that that we're being lied to about nuclear bombs, I really hope they're right. It does make sense to me. I don't know if they're right or wrong, but I really obviously hope they're right.
And
yeah.
Annette, can you please sort of expand a little bit on some of the emergency drills that have been taking place in Sydney recently?
We had one at the airport 2 weeks ago.
One in a boat. In a boat. Do you remember that?
Was there one in a boat? Or was that the one in
on the ship or cruise ship or something where you guys commented on the video? I'm pretty
Oh,
sure
that wasn't that was in Hobart?
something like that. Yeah. And that was that a terrorist attack kind of thing? Were they doing I think it was, yeah. But everyone's messaging me saying like their buildings and hospitals and all over the place are doing a lot of these emergency, fake tests. And although they're normal and they happen frequently, people have been saying, a large amount of people are saying that they've been working there for years and they've never seen anything like that.
Yeah. I've seen, because some people are like, oh, that's just standard standard process or whatever. But yeah, a lot of people are writing and saying, I've been working here for this many years and I've never seen it and I've never seen it and I've never seen anything like this, like in this many years and blah, blah, blah. And even at the airport, the amount of people that said, I've worked at airports for so many years and, we're not supposed, definitely we're not supposed to talk to media, this, that, like this, they're definitely breaking protocol here, breaking protocol there. Definitely things that are out of the ordinary are definitely happening. There was another one with the black helicopters. Remember where they zoomed in on the one with 17?
Oh, yeah.
But they turned the comments off like after 10 minutes. And I think that's because we flooded the comments of the one in Hobart, which was on the Herald Sun,
Yeah.
or the Sun Herald Instagram. And I think that they turned it off because they're like, we don't want that happening again on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they never spoke about it. Like they're not even saying they're a conspiracy theorist claiming.
No, but here's the thing. I've got to tell you guys, so what ended up happening as a result of that Hobart post was that people called Crime Stoppers, which is a good thing,
Yeah.
right? That's a good thing to do. And I wanted to encourage people to do that, but then I was like, I don't want to be, like the one to tell people. So people did that. They called Crime Stoppers. There must have been people that were just looking at the feed and going, what the hell's going on? Like everyone's talking about November 8th. They called Crime Stoppers. I end up with 2 detectives at my door, right? Which I was so happy to see, by the way, because and my mum, like, she had a big smile on her face when I kind of just pulled up and I saw them. I was like, who are they? I bet, I hope they're cops. I hope they're not from the mining board. And I saw the gun and I was like, yes. And my mum had this big smile on her face because she knew that I was going to go down and see the cops, because I'm like, Mum, I have to talk to the cops because I have to be able to say that I talked to the cops, And so she had a big smile on her face because she knew I was relieved to see them. And they were really nice and handsome. And so anyway, I'm talking to them and like one of them, that he's like, can I... Anyway, and so he's like, can I have your number? I'm like, yes, you can have my number. And he's like, I'll call you if I've got any questions, right? And so anyway, I never got a call, right? Which I'm really disappointed. My mom's like, did he ever call you? I'm like, no. And like, the thing is that I am disappointed because it makes me think that they're not taking it seriously. And so someone said handsome and single. Yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't, yeah. But like, the thing is that I didn't, I guess I was hoping, I mean, look, that's just being naive, I guess. But yeah, it's like, I feel like I just want to like call them again and go, what's going on? Like, I haven't received a phone call. And they came all the way from the city. And obviously they're probably disappointed because they probably thought they were going to get some like, you know, inside information about like some contact. I guess, you know, I was like, look, it's just symbolism. It's just what the media is telling us. It's just reading between the lines. You know, I told them to go and look at my highlights and which number to look at and all that stuff. And yeah, I haven't heard anything. They haven't rang me. They haven't. What do you expect? You know, the Vatican's involved. The royal family's involved. You know, some two detectives at Sydney, you know, are not going to stop it from happening, are they?
I'd be like, you know, you should ask your boss's boss's boss. He probably knows about it. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, we did have a couple of questions earlier, like what if nothing happens on the 8th?
I'll be a very happy woman.
We'll be celebrating.
Yes. And do
I mean,
you believe that it could, if nothing goes ahead, that it could be because there's been so much awareness about it and then potentially put a spanner in the works of their plans?
apparently that's how it's meant to work. If you expose it enough, you know, there's all these stories about terrorist attacks that were foiled because they were exposed. Is that even true? I don't know. I mean, like I thought it was true, but right now I'm seeing so much symbolism still, like just escalating, becoming more and more crazy that I can't even look online anymore. I can't even go online at all because all I see is symbolism now. And that really kicked off last Friday. Like last Friday, which I was expecting, I was like, if they're going to keep going ahead, I would expect to see the symbolism really ramp up a week before. And that's exactly what I've seen. So I'm like, how much does it have to be exposed for them to not go ahead? Like what, like how much? Because a lot of people do know, like, I had a friend that, you know, she said she was at a petrol station last week and she overheard two people talking about it at a petrol station. So, you know, I don't know how much, that's the question. How much does something have to be exposed for it to be foiled?
Yeah. The other thing is people are concerned that it might be on another date, like the 17th of November, or what's the other one?
The 26th.
Yeah.
The symbolism is very, very clear that it's planned for the 8th. Because I know they think that because of the numbers, because, you know, 17 equals 8 and 26 equals 8. But it goes deeper than the numbers. There's so much more to it than just the numbers. There's a lot. Like if you really go and look through my highlights, you wouldn't even question it. If you really went deep enough and looked at everything, you would know it's the 8th.
Someone mentioned like the second seal has to be broken, doesn't it mean it'll still go ahead? I personally think that the seals represent where we're at as a consciousness, like, and we still have a lot of work to do. So the way I see it is because so many people are still unconscious and in their like lower chakras, I do think that the seal has to, like, it will happen because we're just not at a point where we don't need it. Like, we're at a point where we can continue on like this. Like there has to, like the seals are just reflecting our shadows.
Okay.
And,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I have the same opinion. So this is just my loose theory at this point, because it's only something I've really started to think about recently. But it's the same as yours. Like what I think is that the seals, like, okay, when they did the Olympic Games, right, and we saw the pale horse. So the pale horse, you don't want to see the pale horse because the pale horse represents something so dark, and that's the fourth horseman. So the first is white, and then there's red and black, and then pale green. And so that's the first four seals. Now, it's so dark and so depressing to think about these four horsemen and the seals that it's like people were asking me, talk about the pale horse. And I'm like, I don't even want to talk about it. I don't even want to talk about it. Like, It's so depressing. And what I think, what I think my loose theory is that the prophecy, right, of the first horse, which is the most ambiguous one, which now we know exactly what that was about. That was about the poison arrow, right, which was the vaccine, which is a jab, which is a stab, which is it goes back to the heart, which is why the most affected organ was the heart. That with pericarditis and is it myocarditis?
Myocarditis.
Yeah, myocarditis. And so so you've got that. And then the second one is also targeted at the heart because it's about division, chaos, hatred, enmity, and all that stuff, pitting people against religions against each other and stuff. So that's the red horse. And civil war, resulting in like a civil war, right? Not a traditional war as we know it, but civil war. And then the black is like the economy, you know, the crashing of the economy and then that leads into famine. So that leads into the pale horse, which is famine and death. Because when you die, like you turn a pale green color, right? So it's super like miserable. It's like a really miserable prophecy. But what I've realized, what I'm pretty sure, and this I know this is going to might sound a bit crazy, but what I really think now is that prophecy is only what happens if we don't become activated. So if we fail, if we essentially flush our spiritual inheritance down the toilet and go down the way of, you know, staying in our lower chakras and not being able to accomplish the alchemical union of the 3 high chakras. Yeah, exactly. If we don't purify our hearts. So the heart is really the key to everything. If we don't purify our hearts, then that prophecy could well be the prophecy that plays out for humanity. But it's a different prophecy if we purify our hearts and activate this, because then we are ushering in the Messianic age. And I won't talk more about that because until after November 8, because it can be a really sensitive topic to talk about, because each religion has their own interpretation of what the Messianic age looks like, and each religion has also, I believe, they've also sort of been a bit gaslit about what the Messianic age actually does look like, so that they reject yeah, I won't go into it, but like, yeah, we can talk about that later. But essentially, it's a good thing. Like essentially,
it's like a higher timeline. If we can get on a higher timeline, like to talk spiritual New Age lingo, is that how you could say it? And then you can dodge all those seals if we get on a higher timeline, kind of thing.
You could say it like that. Yeah. It's basically it's the activation of this. Remember, this is a nuclear explosion. It's basically, okay, I'll explain it like this. So this is uranium, right? So think of this as, and I know that like the whole divine feminine, divine masculine, the sayings, like people think like New Age stuff, and like just try to put that out of your mind. I'm going to use the words divine feminine and divine masculine. And when I say that, and no, I'm a Gemini, not a Pisces.
I'm a Pisces.
When I say,
Moon,
but yeah, Doris
Saturn,
is the Pisces.
Mars.
So when I say, gee, what was I saying?
Uranus?
Yeah.
Divine
when I say divine feminine, what I mean is the benefic feminine that doesn't have a shadow. It's just the light. It doesn't have the portal to the dark, to the unconscious. So that's divine. That's benefic. That's pure. Okay. So that's what I mean when I say divine. So divine feminine unlocks divine masculine. The divine feminine comes first. The divine masculine comes second. So when the Pope was in Sydney in 2008, and it was World Youth Day, and the theme of World Youth Day was the Holy Spirit. You will have power when the Holy Spirit comes upon you, right? That was the theme. Go and look it up. Now, he did his closing speech at the closing mass on the 20th of July, 2008 at Randwick Racecourse. He died 14 years later and was buried in the outfit that he wore that day in Sydney 14 years prior. So go and look at the speech that he did, because the speech that he did is very important. And the whole speech was about the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is the divine feminine. So when they say it's a verse from the book of Acts, you will have power when the Holy Spirit comes upon you. That's essentially the divine feminine, right? So that's Uranus, that's uranium. So that's the heart. So that comes in when the portal to the unconscious is closed, and that is closed by purifying your heart. You purify your heart by living a more wholesome lifestyle, by not having like worldly, transient, material desires in your heart. You're not lusting after things that are not high vibrational. You know, you're not living selfishly. You're not greedy. You're forgiving. You're compassionate. You're not harming anyone. All those things. Okay, so that's purification of the heart.
Meditating in a cave doesn't do that, by the way. You got to be involved in the worldly events.
Yeah. Well, action anyway. Yeah, because you've got the subconscious and the conscious. So the meditation stuff sort of falls into the subconscious. Not the conscious is more about action.
Yeah.
And like doing things. So you do need to take action, and that's where a lot of these new age people they get it wrong. You know, they're so into the yoga meditation and all that. It's more of the subconscious. It's less of the conscious doing action, masculine. That's why it's very feminine. That's why, yeah, it's like it's lacking the masculine, which is the action. And so first you've got the subconscious, the power, the wisdom, the comfort. In fact, in the Bible, Jesus refers to it as the comforter. And when you have your baptism, which the water baptism, again, water, right? It's symbolism. When you get dunked underwater and you have your baptism, that's symbolism for this. It's symbolism for the Holy Spirit. That's why when Jesus gets baptized by John the Baptist, John the Baptist represents the heart, and he baptizes it, and then we got the dove that comes, and that the dove is the Spirit. So it's the Holy Spirit. It's the feminine. And so where was I going with this? So you that's your baptism. The baptism isn't the actual being dunked underwater. That's just the symbolic ritual for it. The baptism is when the Holy Spirit comes in, and you'll know when that happens, because you'll know, because it's almost like you actually see your life through the eyes of the Holy Spirit, and it's a very comforting, very feminine, very nurturing energy that takes away fear, anxiety, and stress. It's something that you won't be able to, like, you can't mistake it for something else. You can't mistake it for something else. You'll literally feel like, you'll feel almost like you're on mushrooms in a way. You know what I mean? But you're not. You haven't taken anything. It could be like, well, you're doing like the most mundane thing in the world, not meditating, not like doing anything special, but you could be literally like scooping poop out of your cat's litter box and having this experience. I'm serious. So, and so like, now once that happens, you like obviously you know how they say men are from Mars, women are from Venus? So Mars it's the masculine part of that. So that's why, yeah, now I know that's what the butterfly represents, right? So it's still part of the heart, but it's the part of the heart that is more masculine, right? Because it's more about action. So instead of just meditating and praying, and all those kinds of things that are more
visualizations.
Yeah, like all those things that are more about the subconscious and the feminine. It's more masculine. It's about taking action, speaking out, doing something about it. Not just sitting in front of your phone and talking to your followers, not just whatever, visualizing and meditating, but actually getting up on your feet, getting shit done, like doing the actual work in the real world, the conscious action, and the expression. So it's what's the heart, what the heart desires, and what it's receiving, the wisdom that it's receiving, the knowledge that it's receiving. Now it needs to come out. You need to share it. You can't keep it to yourself. You can't do nothing about it. You got to do something now. And that's this. And so now it's like, boom. And then, I remember okay, yes. And then, so that's the masculine part. But then this is the divine masculine. This is this is also masculine, but it's divine masculine. It's now like it's next level. It's something we've never seen in our lives. It's hard for us to even comprehend. Jesus says in the Bible, greater things you will do. Now, a lot of Christians think, he was just talking to his disciples. No. Because the Bible doesn't even tell you the extent of the power that we have access, that we have the authority to access. That's why Jesus says greater things you will do, because it doesn't even tell you how great the power is that we have. It doesn't even explain it in there. It's still hiding. And that explains the pyramids. We talk about the pyramids. Who built them? Aliens must have built them, blah, 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 blah. No, humans who activated their dormant DNA, which you can't do until you purify your heart. So they were pure-hearted humans who activated their dormant DNA. They built the pyramids, and guess what the pyramids represent? I mean, when you look at the pyramids of Giza, that's Venus, Mars, and Jupiter. It's the same thing as September 11, the World Trade Center towers 1, 2, and 7, and the Pentagon, because the Pentagon is Venus. And the reason why it's doubled up is because it's the key. It's the key to it all. Next to the crown, you have 3 buildings: Jupiter, Venus, Mars. Underneath the Sydney Harbour, you've got the southbound tunnel, the northbound tunnel, the car tunnels. That's Jupiter, Venus. And then you've got the new metro tunnel, and that's Mars, right? So
all this information that you're talking about, especially the building the pyramids and purifying the mind and the pineal gland, decalcifying it to understand how to actually move massive blocks. You can learn about this through, I don't know, it sounds like you may have read The Law of One.
No.
Okay. The Law of One, you can actually hear the audio book of this, it goes deep into the archetypal mind, and it's like this 6th density social memory complex that actually has a dialogue with a physics professor and UFO.
I know about it. Yeah, I know about the Law of One. I know that the Law of One, just like anything else, just like everything else, is mixed. It's mixed with deception. Everything is, but there's definitely truth in there. So there's truth in everything. So one day I'll get into it, but
describes exactly what you're talking about.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yes.